Hi guys, today's video I teamed up with David from Le Coiffeur Salon, and he's a professional hairstylist. I get asked a ton of questions about hair color and I am not a professional at all, so I thought it would be helpful to have someone who is a professional answer some of those questions about bleaching and just how to achieve that ashy or gray colored hair. And thanks to David, I was able to have a little bit of fun with my own hair in the process, and we did sort of a semi-permanent silvery gray look. But now into the Q&A. So some of the most common questions I get are how to achieve an ashy blonde hair color, and what are the best products for bleaching, what are the best products for toning, and what levels of bleach to use, and all of the above. So what would you recommend for getting a hair color like this? I went from super dark to really blonde, and it took me probably 2 years, and I think a lot of people don't understand that it does take time, especially if you want a nice blonde.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about, like, if they've been dyeing their hair very dark for years, there's a lot of pigment in the hair, so you need to lift that, but some stylists might go and lift it with a very high level of peroxide when bleach, that basically at the same time, but that might damage the hair, so it's better to go a bit slower and maybe taking it 3-5 times, maybe a year, 2 years, depending on what kind of hair you've had in the past, to achieve a very light platinum. Basically, you just don't want to damage the hair and make it break, right? Yeah, exactly. So for getting an ashy color to your hair, you have to lift your hair to be a certain level for it to take the silver tint, right? Well, basically you want it as light as possible, depending on how platinum or there's different levels of blondes, right? You can be a darker blonde or it can be very, very light, almost like white. We went a little bit more silver with your toner today, but to be lifted to a silver, you want at the least possible yellow pigment in the hair after it's been bleached. Basically black hair, if you start from black to blonde, there's 10 levels of hair colors naturally. So you start from black, which is number 1, and 10 would be the lightest blonde. So you want it to be towards the level 10 for platinum and pastel colors. Yeah. And also black has underlying pigments of red, so brown hair would have underlying pigment of orange, and blonde has an underlying pigment of yellow. So it's easy to lift a blonde person, to lift it to that super platinum, because it lifts very fast. It doesn't have to go through the level from red to yellow. Yeah. But yes, it's doable, but you want to take your time doing it if somebody has really dark hair. Unless you want super fried hair. Exactly. If that's your goal, we can do that. Yeah. Also, for the ashiness, talk to your stylist, you'll see what kind of ashiness you want. Some people want a bit more silver, some people just want it a lighter white blonde with a tiny bit of ash to it. Yeah. So it's basically choosing the toner with your stylist and really what the goal you want to achieve in the end. Today, for example, we used level 11, which is even a high lift blonde. Yeah. And I used an 11 ash, and I added a little bit of soft violet pigment to it just to cancel even a bit more yellow tones. Yeah, so bleaching the hair basically removes the color, whereas toning adds a certain pigment back to it. Because when you put bleach on the hair, it's eating away at the pigment. It's like Pac-Man. It's just literally going in the hair, and it's actually removing pigment. That's why you see that underlying pigment coming through. Yeah. And basically, after you've bleached it, you've removed so much pigment, you need to put pigment back into the hair. Because if you leave it wide open, basically with no pigment, the hair is more receptible to a lot of pollutants to come in. That's where you find more brassiness. Even if we achieve a really nice blonde by bleaching, you want to keep it nice, so you add pigments to it, so it blocks anything from coming in afterwards. When you're bleaching your hair, there are different levels of bleach to use, and I know some stylists use a 40 developer, and then there's as low as, how low? There's low, some brands are probably at a 3 or 2 level. Yeah. I'm at a 3.5 in Kevin Murphy, that's the lowest that they have. Yeah. But there's no ammonia in the colors, and most of their bleach doesn't have ammonia as well. You don't want to use 40 volume on somebody with fine hair, because that would just very eat the pigment way too fast and create a lot of damage. Yeah. And yeah, so you don't want your hair to melt off, basically. Yeah, the higher the volume of developer, the more damaging it can be. It's also the faster
Okay.
It goes basically like if you're using ton volume on somebody with your natural level, like a brown hair,
Yeah.
it can take you all the way to platinum. It just will take a longer time
Yeah.
of processing. 40 volume, 30 volumes will like go really faster into the hair, remove pigments a bit faster, but also they're very harsh on like a fine hair follicle. Those are probably more for coarser hair. I personally never use higher than 30 when bleaching. Usually using 30 is on people with very, very dark hair.
So I guess the moral of the story is if you're wanting to go from dark to like a really ashy blonde, it's going to take time unless you want all your hair to break off. It never happens overnight. It's just a lot of patience and going to the salon.
Yeah, it's basically talk to your stylist and you know, it should set a goal, and your stylist should like let you know like how long they estimate it would take.
Yeah.
And most people shouldn't come in thinking like, oh, it's going to be done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's a very long time process to keep the integrity of the hair. You really don't want to damage it.
Alright, cool. Well, I think that answers pretty much everything. So thanks for being a part of the video today, and hopefully that answers a lot of your questions that you guys have been asking. And I'm going to be writing a blog post about this as well, so I will link that down below. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask, and I will see you guys next week in my next video. Bye!